What we saw today was pretty much what, unfortunately, we'd seen other times that I had flown across the coast. The system is largely degraded. There's much more open water than there is marsh, and there are very few areas where we see any hope. The good thing about today, though, was that the river was really high. There was a lot of water and a lot of sediment in the river, and when we got down towards the mouth, you could really see where the places that the sediment and the water gets out of the river and into the wetlands, that they just look a whole lot different. That they actually have different kinds of grass, things are growing well, it's a much more productive system. And so we saw, I think today, some of the hope, although not much of that actually being realized just yet.
Let me say that we have just flown over the source of life for the future of Louisiana, and we've also flown over a place that's on life support. They happen to be right next to each other. And the difference in these flyovers and the flyovers that we've had in the last 5 or 10 years is that this was not looking at consequences as much as it was looking at where we're going in the future. We have had a lot of debate and a lot of talk about how Louisiana can move forward, and that's been in the context of us planning to be a restoration leader in the world. And so today the America's Wetland Foundation is announcing the launch of the World Delta Dialogues 2010. We are inviting the major deltas of the world to come to New Orleans in October and to learn from us, but also begin to create a network of wetland areas and deltaic regions that can support each other, because we have many of the same consequences that we're facing, but the vision for the future has not been well established. We certainly also wanted to take this opportunity to thank Senator Joel Chesson and the Louisiana legislature for inviting us here, along with our partners, the Nature Conservancy, the Greater New Orleans Foundation, the National Conference of State Legislatures, and the Royal Netherlands Embassy, who together have worked with us to plan this Deltas Dialogue that will be in October in New Orleans. We do want to thank them, Entergy, who is supporting a very large study that will be announced at the conference about the vulnerability of the infrastructure of the four-state region, and also our sponsors, Shell and Chevron, who have paid for and helped to support the conference planning. Amid the chaos of this recent Gulf oil spill, we've heard a lot about wetland loss and the vitality of wetlands and the necessary for them to be vital. What we've discovered over the past year is so many commonalities among the Delta leaders that we've been meeting with from other parts of the world. So we've invited some of the best and brightest here, from the Rhine, the Ganges, the Yangtze, the Mekong, and the Nile. We'll sit and we'll actually get our hands dirty. In 2006, we had a conference that was a scientific conference that was about envisioning the future of the Gulf Coast. And now this conference comes back and looks at the trade-offs of actually getting the work done. It's one thing to have a vision, it's another altogether to try to put the people together who will allow us to go forward and move swiftly before we lose our entire wetland. We went up with our partners today to show them what we can expect to tell our visitors when they come in October. And we're very, very pleased at what we saw today, because you see just such a distinctly diverse set of values right near New Orleans. And so our visitors will be taken on tours. We will have them working on wetland projects. We will bring them out into the wetlands and see some of the diversion projects, and we will talk about reconnecting the river with the wetlands. We think it's the only way that in the future we will have a viable coast. We needed to show people who are organizing the World Delta Dialogues Conference in New Orleans how great the river is as a resource, and right next to the river how much is needed. We have a full and powerful river that could replenish the wetlands, but unfortunately they're dying because of the restrictions with the levees, putting all the sediment nutrients out in the deep Gulf.
And what do you see as the solution for this?
Well, it's connecting the river with the wetlands. It's replenishing the lands that are dying with the nutrients and sediments that come from the river. We have the greatest resource possible. We don't utilize it at all.
I was thoroughly impressed by what I saw from the air and heard from the scientists about the need to reintegrate the river into our marshlands. It's something that makes perfect sense. There's no question that blocking the river with the levees for all these years has caused been a substantial detriment to our coast, and we need to do something about it. And I think it's time that the decisions started to be made with input from the scientists and not just based upon political expediency. And I think that's an important part of what I was able to see and hear today.
What I saw today vividly illustrates the loss of the wetlands. I mean, you can read about it, you can see still pictures in that, but when you see what has happened out there, you see the river, and then you see the loss of essentially of sediment in that, and the demise of much of the wetland in that out there from the air, you get a much better picture of it and of the immensity of it, of the scale of what's going on out there, and the immensity of the task that faces the United States and the state of Louisiana on this.
What do you feel needs to be done?
Well, I think that America's Wetland Foundation is off on a good start. We clearly have to pay a lot more attention to it. We have engineered, for other reasons, we've done things that have caused us to be in the position we're in today. We have to reverse some of those things, or we have to take into account the importance of maintaining the coastal Louisiana and all the industry that depends on coastal Louisiana in the future, which I think we have probably not paid sufficient attention to.
Every time you get up in the air around New Orleans and you see the coastal zone, several things grab you. Number one, the urgency. Number two, the importance of this area as a working coast to the nation. And number three, the significance of the river. And if we don't change the way we manage the river, then we lose everything.
And what do you feel needs to be done?
Well, the most important thing is we have to go from flood control to control floods. And we have to build with the river. And we have to do that so that we also maintain our significance to the nation for navigation, for fisheries, for oil and gas industry, and for refineries and all the other industries in this working coast. So we've got to find a way to do trade-offs, move forward, so that not everyone loses.
I think what needs to be done is we really need to grab the Mississippi River resources. We need to grab that fresh water and sediment, stop wasting it, stop letting it pour into the Gulf of Mexico 24/7, 365, and use it to rebuild the coast. It's as simple as that, really.
What will it take to do that?
Well, it will take confronting some difficult issues. It will actually take getting everybody around the table. We have managed this river resource for navigation. We started that in the 19th century. In the 20th century, we started navigating on it and managing it for flood control. We started to put levees on it. In the 21st century, we have to manage it for navigation, flood control, and ecosystem restoration. So that means that all of those players are going to need to be around the table. Not just those that are interested in the wetlands, not just those that are interested in the ecosystem, but those that are interested in flood control and those that are interested in navigation. We have to get all of those parties around the table and really figure out how we're going to manage this resource in the 21st century.
AmericasWetland.com is the best place to go, and they can learn much more about the wetlands and all of the things we're doing to save them.